Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about if you should be getting a name brand gaming mouse in 2024. And what do I mean by name brand? Mainly just very popular brands. I know that might not be the exact definition, but just generally very popular gaming mouse brands for example, like Logitech, Razer, Corsair, even though that's a terrible option, even in terms of a name brand option. Corsair is just an awful option. Asus and like Rocat, but again, just very popular gaming mouse brands. And should you get mice from those companies? It depends on what you're looking for. I say this with like basically every single for anybody even looking for a new gaming mouse, it just depends on what you are looking for. Do not just buy a mouse because one person said, I like it. Actually look into what like you enjoy in a gaming mouse. For example, it just varies from person to person, but one person might prefer like a high hump mouse. Another person might prefer like a low hump mouse. A lot of people prefer ergos. A lot of people prefer symmetrical mice. The gaming mice just comes in all different shapes and colors, and they're very different. So you really need to just look and research in depth. It's tedious, but I think that's really just the best option if you're looking for a new gaming mouse, just like really diving into it. Because if you just get one that won't satisfy you, I mean, that will suck. I mean, trust me, I have been through so many gaming mice in the past that have just not satisfied me, and a lot of gaming mice that I just haven't had the best time with, whether that be because of QC issues or just the shape being not that comfortable for me. But yeah, and honestly, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if you need to get a name brand mouse. However, honestly, if the shape is what you're looking for, then I can honestly kind of recommend it. Because again, it varies from person to person, but I think big brand gaming mice, especially from Logitech and Razer, are pretty consistent quality, besides maybe a few hiccups here and there. For example, Razer, great build quality besides the scroll wheel. The scroll wheel is notorious for acting up after about like 6 months or a year of use, including my Death Adder version 3, which I've had for like a year. I've said this like a million times before, but yeah, it's developed a scroll wheel issue where it will just kind of rarely, but still sometimes randomly like scroll up when I'm trying to scroll down, and that is incredibly annoying. Like, I'm not trying to scroll up, it will just register as a scroll up like kind of randomly, and it is extremely annoying. However, I have like temporarily kind of fixed the problem by blowing into the scroll wheel, but this leads me into my next point, which is support. And honestly, again, it's kind of a 50-50 in terms of support. Sometimes you'll get like good support from a big brand. Other times you'll just kind of get kind of iffy support. For example, when I went through Razer to try to talk about this scroll wheel issue, they said to provide proof. And most mouse companies do this, to be fair, but honestly, it is pretty difficult to provide proof for this, especially in my case, where it just kind of rarely happens where I will just randomly scroll up. Because if I were to provide proof, I would have to like, I don't even know how I would do it. I would just have to record it on my phone of it just, just to prove that I'm not like making this up, like to prove that I'm not like scrolling up when, I'm saying that, it's actuating on its own. Again, it's just kind of complicated. It's just kind of a complicated way to prove like to have to prove something, especially in like certain circumstances. But still, even with the support inconsistencies from like different brands, I can still recommend like big name brands if you're looking for that specific shape and you like the switches and all that, mainly because of the warranty. Because the problem is with like no name brands or just not very popular brands, they just have really inconsistent warranties, especially if you're buying them from like a third party site. A lot of the time, like they'll have like especially with like firmware, they'll just have like kind of iffy firmware, or something will be messed up. For example, like my Ninjutsu Sora, both of my Ninjutsu Soras, and yes, I have two, both have sensor issues where it will just randomly spin out. Fortunately, I did get to return one of those, and they actually let me keep the mouse, so thanks to Ninjutsu for that. However, They said that they fixed the sensor issues on the like newer batches of the Sora. However, when I got it, again, it had a sensor issue, which is just annoying. I've heard that they fixed it basically entirely on the new Soras, so that's good. But again, that's just kind of an example of how these like very, very not super popular brands, but kind of popular even in the mouse review space, can be a little bit iffy in terms of QC. And sometimes, again, they'll have good support like Ninjutsu did, but then other times they'll just have kind of bad support. I've seen this all the time on like Reddit where, you know, somebody's just contacting them for a pretty pivotal QC issue. For example, like scroll wheel issues or like sensor spinouts or stuff like that, or just general firmware issues. And the company will just kind of make excuses for their own fault, saying that, oh, you know, it should be working that way. Like, you know, I've seen this plenty of times before. It's just really kind of infuriating, especially when the customer is on the right, which most of the time that is the case. So yeah, again, that's why I can honestly kind of recommend big gaming mice if you're looking into them and they suit your needs. Because again, even if the support isn't going to be always 100%, and it isn't always going to be super consistent, it is still going to be more consistent, and the warranty will last longer, especially if you're paying more for these big gaming mice rather than, you know, smaller mice, smaller gaming brand mice. So yeah. I don't really have a whole lot else to say, but again, just the support will be a little bit better for big gaming mice, and also just the quality will be a lot more consistent. There still will be, keep in mind, there still will be some issues with, you know, big gaming mice brands. For example, again, a bunch of Razer mice have developed scroll wheel issues again, including me, which is just incredibly annoying. And I hope they fucking fix that issue on the new Viper version 3 Pro that's going to be releasing soon, hopefully this week. But I hope that they change the encoder or something, because yeah, the encoders on these just suck and completely give out after like a year. But I just really, really hope that they improve their encoders. But again, even with that being said, the QC is still going to be more consistent most of the time on big gaming mice brands. So that's why I can honestly kind of recommend them, even though they are very expensive, because at the end of the day, even though they are expensive, sometimes I do think it is worth it, just only for the fact of better warranty and better support and just overall way more consistent firmware. Like, if you get a big gaming mouse brand, you basically are guaranteed to have like no sensor spinouts most of the time. Like, you know, again, there still are going to be like a few like bad copies, but most of the time, like I would say like probably 95, maybe even 99% of the time, you're gonna be getting like a really good copy. Meanwhile, with like a kind of smaller brand, it's kind of hit or miss, as I said, but honestly, I would say it's honestly kind of like a 60% chance for like some brands that you're gonna be getting like solid firmware, like out of the box, just like, and like with no issues whatsoever. Actually, no, maybe not 60%. That's pretty low. I would probably say around like 80 or like 75%, but still, again, you are more sure to get way better performance out of these big gaming mouse brands than, you know, the smaller ones. Most of the time, and with less hiccups than, you know, smaller ones, as I said, because the firmware is just way more optimized because they've had more time and they have more resources to put into these gaming mice. So yeah, I don't have all else to say. As I said, just get whatever looks interesting to you. I know they're very expensive, but again, I honestly think they're worth it most of the time. Just because of better support and better warranty and just overall more consistent firmware and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's going to be it, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.